Greetings and welcome to Nature's Bounties. Here we are again. Praise the Lord for the opportunity we have that we can look at some of these things from the perspective of natural health care. Now I want to look at a very important topic that to a large extent, personally for me, it distresses me. But we still have to talk about it. And that is, how can we use diet to help us to deal with, to conquer diabetes? And then before we go on, I always like to ask for the Lord's blessing, that He will guide, He will lead and direct our minds so that all that we say and do will be such as will help us to solve problems in health through the means that He has provided. Let's pray. Thank you, Holy Father, for the opportunity we have that we can look into the things that others have learned and search and find out what can we do to help us to be in better health or to maintain our good health by your grace, because we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Conquering diabetes, the dietary answer. How can diet help us to overcome this problem that seems as if it's becoming a household problem? How can we deal with it? How can we work with it? What can we do to be sure that the things that are distressing our bodies can be reduced to the minimum? And diabetes is one of them. What is diabetes? There are many types of diabetes, but the one that is the most common is the one that is called diabetes mellitus. And this particular one, research upon research has shown us that it is caused by diet, primarily lifestyle. If lifestyle is the cause of a disease to a large extent, then lifestyle is also what will help to conquer the problem. Makes sense? Yes, it does. Diabetes is a problem with metabolism. What we eat, how it is broken down in our body, and then how our body absorbs the nutrients from the food that we eat. Now, glucose, sugar, glucose is what our cells feed on, our brain and every part of our body. That is what they eat. Glucose is their food. The food that we eat is converted to glucose. When it is not properly digested, or when it is not properly absorbed, because it is often said in natural health care, it's not what you eat, it's not what you even digest, but it is what you absorb. Now, when we absorb glucose into our body through cells into every part of the body, the blood itself being the transporter of all of these nutrients, especially glucose, and for whatever reason, in metabolism gone haywire in the wrong way, not operating as it should be, diabetes happen and the body is in distress. And then, sadly, and this is the part that really distressed me, millions are dying from this problem, these particular health issues. Generally, people used to say, oh, it's the problem with those who have affluence. It's the problem with those who have a lot of money. And because they eat a lot of food and they eat a lot of this and lots of nice things, so to say, that's why this is their problem. But no more. No more as we are talking now. No more is diabetes the problem with only the affluent. It has come to the grassroots, to everyone. Why? I found out that the most important factor is because we do not have the knowledge to help us understand how to deal with this problem. The healthcare practitioners will do their best and do whatever they can, but when the rubber meets the road, when it comes to our health issues, this person is still in charge of her health. You are still in charge of your health. We all must do everything that God has given us power to do to keep our health in the best condition. Because this body, this is my house. If I don't keep it, where will I live? Our body is what God has given us as the property where we live in. And if we take good care of it, we'll live in it for a long time. But if we are careless or for lack of knowledge, we don't know how best to do it, to take care of this body, it wouldn't matter whether it is because we don't have the knowledge. The body will still deteriorate, waste away very quickly. And that is what diabetes does to the body. It wastes the body away, gradually but surely. So what can we do? How can we help this situation? It's like a broken down vehicle. If it's broken and it's left there, it will just rot away. Our bodies is breaking down if we don't take very good care of it. So when we talk about what to do with our body, when we look at how to take care of our body, and we know that simple sugar, glucose, is what our body feeds on, and diabetes is a problem that comes on as a result of inability to take care of that body, then we need to talk about it. We need to do something about it. In Africa, at least, this is what statistics is telling us. This is from WHO Regional Office for Africa, and it says 15% of adults 25 to 64 in age have diabetes. That's a lot of people. 15% of adults between the ages of 25 to 64 have diabetes. Why should anyone die from this problem? I often ask myself if there can be solution to help, and if lifestyle is a factor, then those who are in lifestyle issues should talk about it and see what can be done to help everybody else that will listen. As I continue to study in my growing in the knowledge of natural health care, something continues to meet my view, and that is, what is the cause of diabetes? It seems as if generally what is thought to be the problem is not really the problem. Since 1927, there was a research that was done by Dr. Sweeney. That research took healthy, strong, young medical students and divided them into two. Half of them were given a very high sweet diet for 2 days. Sugar, candies, sweets, all of those sweet things that they put a lot of sugar, honey, name it, into it. And they did the tolerance test. That is the test that is done to see how well our body takes in glucose. When this tolerance test was done for this group of medical students, they found that there wasn't much differences in their blood sugar levels. They were able to tolerate and digest the sugar, absorb it properly. Now, the other group that was given another type of diet, a high-fat diet, margarine, cream, butter, oil, mayonnaise, and all those high-fat foods, 2 days on the diet, and they were giving them the glucose tolerance test. What did they find? Healthy, young medical students, 1927, they found that they developed high glucose levels in their blood to high diabetic level. They had to stop quickly. What was the difference? They found that it was difficult, as more studies were done in these areas, that it was difficult for the cells to process and to keep the sugar. Insulin is being produced once we have a lot of glucose in our bloodstream, and insulin will feed the sugar into the cells and allow the cells to keep the sugar until it is needed. So it will be kept as glycogen, and then when we need it, our liver and so forth, the brain giving the signal, they release into the blood, and then energy will be produced, because it is energy we need to live. Our brain is fed on glucose. But when the fat is too much and is going into the cells, it coats the cell, not enabling glucose to deposit the sugar properly in the cells that are supposed to keep the sugar. Therefore, sugar floats in the blood very freely. And then, when blood sugar tests are taken, in the blood there is too much sugar, because the cells are not able to keep the sugar. The gates, the mechanism that should open up and allow insulin, which is like a spoon, to take the sugar and keep it in the cell, they are incapable of doing their work because of the high fat content in the food that has been absorbed into the blood, and the cells are loaded with this fat. Therefore, the mechanism that is supposed to do this work is not able to do it properly. And in the several years that I have been in natural health care, this had been an issue. And I have had, by the grace of God, individuals who have looked at it and said, well, let me test this out. Let me see if I can try this and see if it works for me. And I tell you what, it's been working. Because when I looked at the graph, and it's something that we can look at very well, put Dr. Sweeney on the internet and look at this research and read the entire document. It's amazing. And many, many researches have been done after that, showing this direction. Because if the lifestyle is not corrected, diabetes just keep on eating up, wasting all the organs one by one. And we know by now that one of the primary ways in which a diabetic person gives up finally, usually, as it is said, I can't remember exactly the percentage, but it's a high percentage of diabetic patients dying of heart attack. What has heart attack got to do with too much sugar in the blood? Well, because every organ in the body has cells. And therefore, when the cells of the heart are not able to function as they should and they are dying, and the heart is the organ that actually pumps blood to every part of our body. It's a pumping machine primarily. When it's not being fed, when it is overloaded with fat, then with a diabetic person leads to heart attack. Of course, there are many complications with diabetes. Eye problem. I have met a woman that told me when I didn't see her in the market and I went to look for her, and she said, if I had seen you 3 weeks ago when I could not come to market at all, my blood sugar was so high, I wasn't seeing. And I was wondering, I don't eat sugar. I don't eat any of those things that they said we should not eat in any of those drinks. I don't drink them. Why is it that I have such high sugar content in my blood? And I helped her to understand that how do you eat? What do you eat? But she was eating a lot of oil and fat. And those things were not helping her cells to enable the sugar to be properly stored where they are supposed to be until needed. Others will have limbs that they will need to cut off because there isn't blood flow and enough circulation to reach those areas, especially in the periphery, in the toes, in the legs. And therefore, they have issues. Amputations happen. Now, if we can look at it again, closely, prayerfully, what we eat affects how our food is processed. The type of food that we eat affects how our cells functions. Then we can consider that we can look at this closely. Why was it a situation with the affluent before? Well, the affluent will get all those high fatty foods, but the poor were eating a lot of plant-based diet. But now, no, even the poor eat a lot of fat. We fry our foods a lot because we are living in cities. Urbanization is happening, and the city is even going into the villages. The mills that are able to process all our grains, and then the processing of not just the grains, but the kernels, the palm kernels, the legumes, the granules that is made into oil. All of these ones are affecting those of us who do not have all the means before. And now we can eat them freely. And then we also use frying to preserve our food. Because when we make stew or we cook soup and we put a lot of oil on it, it will not spoil. Well, we had good intention in order to preserve the food so that it doesn't spoil, because before, the poor, the typical agrarian person living in the farm, he cooks everything he eats per day pretty much. He does not need to store food for 2 days, 3 days. Where is he going? But now, we want to go to some places for a few days. We want to do some things over time, so we store our food more now than before. So we use a lot of oil content in our foods, and we eat a lot of fat. And the hydrogenation of fat is easy now. If you can't buy it in the can, you can buy it in the sachets. If you can't buy it for big amounts of money, you can just buy small ones at a time. So every day you can go out, buy a sachet of margarine, buy a big loaf of bread that the fiber has been removed, and then we eat this food. Then we don't do one other thing. One other thing that is responsible for diabetes, one lifestyle problem that is also the cause of diabetes. Many literature is showing that to us, and evidences are proving to us that we need to consider this second factor also very well, and that is lack of exercise. The motorcycles are there. The buses are there to take us to wherever we want to go, very quickly too. We don't walk as much as we used to walk. We don't need to, because the means of taking us there very quickly are available now more than before. Therefore, we don't exercise as we should. Then why do we need to garden? Oh, I'm just going to go to office, do my work, and come back home. Therefore, I sit down for too long. Sitting is one of the problems that is plaguing the world today. Because when I sit, well, I'm going to be at work for 8 hours, and I'm sitting for 5-6 hours, and I'm not getting up. And I may not be obese, but the fact is I'm still not exercising. There are some people that ask the question, I'm not fat, why do I have diabetes? Is it not for people who are fat? No. It can happen to anyone who is eating too much fat and not having enough exercise. So 2 factors in lifestyle enables development and the progression of diabetes. So whatever things we do in order to conquer diabetes, if we do not consider these 2 factors, we may not be able to have a headway. And I pray and I long that if we are troubled with this problem, it is something that we can consider those 2 factors, our diet and whether we exercise or whether we do not exercise. Because when those 2 things are considered, I have seen experience in life, in wellness centers, where those 2 things are put into consideration, and they can conquer diabetes by the grace of God. So let us think about it. Let us consider it. Let us experiment with it. I have had individuals who have said, well, I'm going to try this out. I'm tired of punching myself and seeking to know what my blood sugar is and trying to find out what it is, and I'm pricking. Well, some people don't have to prick now because technology is getting better and better. But then, despite good technology, if we do not consider how God made us in the beginning and how we can take care of this house that He has given us to live in, then the technology will help us, no doubt about it, but then will it help us? Really help us? It may not in the long run if we do not consider putting into effect how the Master Creator has made us and how we can cooperate with the way nature made us, so that the bounties of nature will not become a problem for us. Because sometimes it's those bounties that we have, and then we use them as they come, and we enjoy them as they keep on being loaded to us. But if we use them close to nature, we will not have problems. So what are the diet patterns that can help us to conquer this problem that has become becoming to a large extent a plague, if I can use that word, because it's all over. Before you talk to a person in my profession, here, there, you talk about this, they say, well, I have diabetes, or my husband has diabetes, or my mother has diabetes. Every household seems to have a diabetic person there. Well, dietary factors. It looks simple, but it's effective. Plant-based diet. What does that mean? Grains, as nature packaged it. Once the shaft has been removed, initially from that the farmer has done to get rid of the shaft before it is sold to us, the coating that surrounds our grains, we should eat them. They are very good. They are not digested or absorbed into our blood, but they have the work that they do. They act as sponge. They take in all that we do not need in our body, and then they enable bulk so that we can excrete them properly. So they have the role that they play. All refined, that's what it means. All refined whole grain. Now, if we want to take our oils, the best way to take them is in the unrefined state. In Nigeria, for instance, when they take the palm kernel that is used for palm oil and harvest it, it's still in the kernel, cooked with some water, then pounded to remove the skin, and then squeeze out that skin, you get a lot of oil. And then this oil is still in water, and there's some fiber still present in it. And then this is used to cook the soup. It's far better than to use the oil that has been processed properly with machines and so forth, and it has been devoid of fiber totally. And then we not only use them a lot, we put them back in fire, fry them again, destroying the natural chemical composition to a great extent. And the body has no need for it because it's strange to our digestive system. They don't know what this is. The small intestine, where it's supposed to begin to process the oil, is wondering, what's this? If one can listen to our stomach or our intestine talk. And then a lot of bile is produced. And research is showing us that even when we look at cancer, those who come down with cancer, and post-mortem shows that they have a lot of bile in their digestive system because there is a lot of fatty substances to break down. And all of these are harmful to the body system, and the body cannot process it. So the oil remains there, and it's not able to be properly digested. But it is still absorbed to some extent into the blood, and they block the cells, and they are not enabled to work as they should be in our body for the benefit to which fat should work in the body. Therefore, unrefined grains, unrefined seeds, unrefined fat is what is best for our body. And then our body can break it down properly, and then it can use it for the benefit to which it is meant for. We need some fat in our body. We cannot totally say, oh, no, I'm not going to eat any fat. No, we can't do that. We need the fat. It is needed, absolutely needed. But when it is taken in a highly refined form, it hurts us. It hurts our body. Then, plenty of fruits. Did you say fruits? And I have diabetes? Yes, fruits. I have seen individuals who have said, no, I can't eat any of those fruits. You know what? God is all wise. He made the fruits and he made them sweet. They are not sugary sweets like the refined white crystal sugar. They are nice tasting and sweet to the taste buds. They have fiber. They have vitamins. They have minerals that the body definitely must have. If we don't have them, our body becomes into a diseased state. Fruit is the best food for mankind. It is the one important, most important food that we must eat. And I'm choosing my words, must eat. Therefore, if any condition should tell that I'm not going to eat fruit at all, then there's a big problem that needs to be really looked into, because you need the fruit. I have seen a person that say, oh, I cannot eat fruit because I have this and this one. And I said, try it for a few days. And anyway, you're under my supervision. Nothing will happen. If anything happens, we'll know what we'll do. And then the person tried it, and the blood sugar began to come to the regular place that it's supposed to be. Please be under supervision to do any of these things, especially if you are afraid, and if your physician has said this is not something you should do. Definitely be under supervision so that you don't go and do anything hasty that can harm you some more. But I know that God has given us fruits as the diet for our body, and we must eat it in order to have the type of nutrients that our cells must have. Then, adequate water intake, exercise. What type of exercise is good? Well, simple exercise. Walk. Take a good walk, especially when you have just finished eating. It is not good to finish eating and then sit down or try to study after a meal. No, it is better after a meal to take a short walk, whether in the shade, around the waterside, where there will be no harm. It is not good to finish eating and go and take a seat, especially if your glucose level is high. It is not a good thing at all to finish your meal and then not move around. It is very, very important. And if by the grace of God we are able to do this to help anyone, then we have conquered this disease that is killing so many people and bringing distress to so many of us. The leading cause of diabetes is still high blood pressure, heart attack, heart problems, and so forth. And therefore, we must face it. So when you say, oh, we have high blood pressure adults, too many in the society, check it out. They may also have diabetes. By the grace of God, if we get more education in this area and we trust God to help us to do that which we know is right, which will still be going back to what God has given us so that we can be in the best of health. And I trust that the Lord will help us all, that our family members, especially our parents, our friends, and so forth, will be benefited by this education that we have, so that indeed knowledge that is said to be power, when we have the right knowledge, will indeed be a blessing to you and to everyone. May God bless you and keep you and continue to shine his face upon you. I pray and trust that the Lord will help as I trust him, and I believe that all of us will do the same.